Yes, of course, it has been a very long day, but I do have all the details of those sentences, and they were given different sentences depending on their involvement of the crime. So we'll start with Sebastian Zimok and Michael Lesinski. So they were believed to be the masterminds behind this criminal organisation. They were both sentenced to 7 years in prison. Now it's believed that between them they managed to make hundreds of thousands of pounds via as these sex workers, often driving them around from brothel to brothel, from hotels and to clients' personal businesses as well, making hundreds of thousands of pounds. So they were both sentenced to 7 years. The next one in that hierarchy was Grigor Borowska. He was sentenced to 3 years and 9 months in prison. Now it's believed that he had worked on reception and also had some involvement in transferring some of these victims from A to B. Next was Rafał Laski. Now he had said that he was actually an Uber driver before the pandemic. He had thousands of reviews and made thousands of journeys, but fell on hard time during COVID and therefore took a driving job with this criminal organisation. Now the judge conceded that compared to the other defendants, he hadn't been involved as much, but she did sentence him to 18 months in prison. However, he spent 11 months on remand already, so he will be released on time served. And finally, Mrs. Anna Zimok, that's the wife of Sebastian Zimok. She was sentenced to 2 years, but had that sentence suspended. Now, it was thought that whilst her husband had been extradited to Poland for a similar conviction, that she had taken over the business with the help of Michael Lesinski. And throughout the 10-week trial, we've heard some horrifying accounts from victims who say that they were abused both physically and emotionally and, of course, sexually. Some of them said that they had their money withdrawn from them, and if they dare refuse to have sex with a client, they were also starved. We heard of one particular victim. She said that she'd already experienced a horrendous childhood growing up. She had fled from Poland to Britain in the hopes that she could restart her life. She then experienced abuse at the hands of a brothel and had reached out to one of these criminals for help to get her out of that situation. Instead, she was put to work straight away. She actually spoke to Sky News and she's told us of her experience of being trafficked.
The first guy, he was Polish and he was 60 years old, 60. For me, that was very bad because the stepfather who raped me, he was also very old. I don't want to stay with this guy, and I said to him, I don't want to do this. And he didn't listen. He just said I had to go to the room with him, and that's that.
And the Metropolitan Police have been working on this case for a few years now. It's been a huge investigation. They said that they managed to safeguard more than 130 women, but they'd found that more than 300 women were likely to be in a similar situation. Sky News also spoke to the detective inspector on this case, and this is what he had to say.
I'd describe them as opportunistic, and I think what they've done in this case is particularly evil. And having seen multiple cases of this kind of offending, I find it completely evil. And so I am pleased that we've been able to bring them to justice and hopefully, as I say, bring some closure to the victim in this case.
And while sentencing, the judge said that many of the victims were treated as though they were worthless. They said the victims had been emotionally, physically and psychologically damaged and would take a long time for them to be able to recover from this. And interestingly, she also spoke about the different types of victims. She spoke about the ones that knew that the abuse wasn't right, but she also spoke about the ones that weren't quite sure and that on the surface looked as though they had agreed with the abuse that they had endured. And this is something that the police also want to reference as well. They've made it clear that among us, every time we go to a nail shop and visiting our high streets, that we have to be a little bit more vigilant, that there are vulnerable people all around us. And I suppose this case serves as a reminder of just how vulnerable some of these people are. And as I say, all 5 of those people have been convicted and sentenced.